This is Tracy Broussard with RoadDawgOnline.com and John Toomey. So John, your DVD, how many years of toiling does that DVD make up?
Well, I guess I could say I started meddling with the advanced independence with the feet probably 7 or 8 years ago, and it's still a work in progress. So there's no date when you can actually say, there's no time limit to say, hey, I've done it, I've mastered it, it's done, because I'm still finding things on a monthly basis that I didn't realize I could do beforehand. At the time of the filming of the DVD, I could only do so much, and I had to really rehearse to make sure that I could pull all those things off that I wanted to explain clearly and demonstrate. But since then, almost a year later since the filming, there's a whole nother world of technical possibilities I've discovered and I've sort of accomplished. Physically speaking, the physical aspects are starting. More doors are opening, more possibilities are opening. The more I start to, experiment. The left foot clave thing was probably stamped into our culture by probably Horacio Hernandez. I mean, he took it to the forefront in the drummer world, blew everyone's minds. And that's about the time when I was in college, that's about the time when he was coming onto the scene like hard. And you're like, oh my gosh, who is this guy? So he got me inspired to start playing around with the left foot possibilities. And by accident, started working on I started playing with the hi-hat and the left foot, other sound apparatus, whether it's tambourine, woodblock, or anything else over to the left of the hi-hat. I started working with that by accident. I started realizing, well, I could play them at the same time. And since then, the patterns have been getting more and more advanced. The possibilities are, like I say, they're broadening.
On your DVD, you show, through your prepared solos, how you can apply your techniques to different genres. Let's talk genres, man. All right, for instance, funk. Who were some of the cats that you followed in New Orleans?
I was lucky enough to see Herlin Riley once. Oh my gosh, he did a clinic at Loyola when I was there, and it was incredible, man. It was so awesome. 4-piece kit. He just used the kit at the school. And then in the middle of his drum solo, he put the sticks down, picks up a little tambora, that's what it's called, a little hand tambourine frame drum, and whipped it on that instrument alone. He started doing this stuff, and you're like, oh my gosh, blew our minds. Him, Stanton Moore, Johnny Vodakovich. There was a guy went by the name of Mean Willie Green.
Oh yes.
Yeah. He tore it up. I got to see him play. I got to sit in on his kit once, and he led with his left hand. And at that point, that was before I started working on my left hand independence. So that was a challenge. The other New Orleans drummers, they all got an element of funk. That second line is very funky. That even stems from where I want to take this conversation is Afro-Cuban music, with that clave.
So that influence would be, of course, Horacio. Any other cats that helped you out?
There's a guy named Daphnis Prieto. He's got some unbelievable chops. He doesn't do the multiple pedal setup or the left foot clave, but he's able to keep clave going, alternating hands while he's soloing around it and always hitting the clave with both hands. You gotta watch it. It's insane.
What about rock, man? Who are some of your influences from that?
Matt Cameron. With Soundgarden. I am a huge fan. Danny Carey from Tool. I grew up in high school. I grew up trying to work out all those Tool patterns. On every album, I was a fanatic. So that really helped out my independence too, because he's on a whole nother level. Someone I didn't appreciate at the time, but really, really love now and love listening to is Dave Grohl. I definitely love Nirvana, but at the time I was more chopwood. So Mike Portnoy was another guy when I was younger that I was really gravitated to because it was complex, it was crazy drumming, and I wanted to get to that level.
So you were in New Orleans, man, and Katrina hit. How devastating was that for you?
It was devastating only in the fact that I had to make a huge decision for the new direction my life was going to have to take, because I realized going back to school immediately in New Orleans was not an option, and I'm not one to just sit around and wait. You know, I'm typically like, I got to get something done. I've got to find a new direction. If one door's closed, like, I'm going to look for the next one that's open. And 3 days after Katrina hit, because I had evacuated and went back to to stay with my parents in Mobile, Alabama, which is still on the coast, still got hit pretty hard, but it was above ground and above sea level rather. And 3 days later, I was on the phone with the people at Belmont, up here in Nashville, Tennessee, and I was up with everything I had still, all my belongings, some clothes, and my drum set I got to evacuate with all that to my name, moved up to Nashville 3 days later, and then here I am, over 5 years later, and that was the best decision I ever made. And it was totally, flying by the seat of my pants. That decision was like, well, what am I going to do? I'm going to move to Nashville. And 3 days later, there I was. I lost a lot of stuff, but it was a blessing in disguise. It's hard to say whether it was the better or worse. I have no idea what would have happened if I'd stayed in New Orleans. All I know is it would have been a little more tough to secure the career that I've been able to build and develop here in Nashville in New Orleans as a home base, just because the commercial music environment is a little more centralized here in Nashville. I never saw myself playing country music, but here I am,
Yeah, how'd that evolve, man? Just being in town and going to Belmont and stuff?
Yeah, that's just Nashville, man. I guess that's it. I'm okay with being a hired gun. I always dreamed of being in a band, having a band situation, and I've got those here in town. But I'm paying my bills and having just as much fun and enjoying my watching my career blossom in the country music world. Which is totally separate and apart from the solo drumming stuff and my DVD. I maintained contact with Johnny Rabb. I met him as soon as I moved up to Nashville. Got his number from a friend, called him up, asked for a lesson, and that went well. It was cool. It was mostly just us talking, and I was showing him what I was doing, and he was showing me how to do his one-handed roll thing, because I thought that was really cool. And we maintained contact over the years. And I knew I was working on this, and with his encouragement and a couple of other people's encouragement, like, man, you got to document this. You got to, solidify it and, make your definitive work. Pre-production took a long time because I realized the builders and stuff, I couldn't play a lot of that stuff before I filmed. So I really had to shed for months and get real comfortable. And I still struggled with it when I was filming. But the work paid off because I wouldn't have been able to pull it off at all. Plus, I didn't have a clear idea, so Johnny and I collaborated. He co-produced the DVD with me, and with his help and a lot of help from friends outside, the idea started to come together. A good, clear, timeline, or at least a number of topics to cover started to come together, and the idea was born.
How can the working drummer like yourself apply these techniques?
That is a great question, and I've thought about it because I never wanted to just be like a chops fest guy. I made sure for those types of that type of opposing question or challenge, I made sure that I included in the video, in the DVD, musical examples that I co-wrote with my buddy who also directed the film. Musical examples in which I'm playing the percussion parts along with the drum part, the drum set part at the same time. So I can I can set up a tambourine, play the tambourine while grooving. I can do cool syncopated rhythms between cowbell and woodblock or tambourine or any combination of sound or electronic sound you can imagine. All at the same time as laying down a solid pocket. It's also got this wow factor because most people, I've had guys come up and be like, man, I thought you were on tracks, and I kept looking around, I didn't see any electronics, and I come up and look around, I see these pedals, and like, I couldn't imagine how you were doing it. I get a little anxious to know what the responses of all the different people that view it will be. Because I know there's always going to be critics. There's always going to be people who are like, dude, that's so cool, awesome, I love what you're doing. And there's going to be those who say, oh, it's just this. Who wants to use this? What good is this in the studio, or what good is this live? I'm like, well, it's whatever good you make it, you know. It can be practical, it can be progressive and extreme solo drummer oriented stuff, and it can be groove and pocket playing, you know, supporting drummer role kind of stuff as well. I think you get the best of both worlds. I took myself up to Chicago, paid for it all myself, and Meinl was kind enough to provide a lot of all the cymbals and percussion. And that was cool, you know, because that was the first time I'd ever had any kind of help from a drum company. And, you know, I'm just happy to have it done. You know, it's exciting. I did it. I feel like I did it myself. And whether people like it or not, I'm proud I got it done.
This is Tracy Broussard with RoadDawg Online and John Toomey. And we're done. Thanks again, man.
All right.